What do you make of Whitman's utilization of the gerundives throughout his poetic career? Instead of giving us sentences that are complete, that begin with a subject and conclude with a verb, and have a transitive trajectory, he writes poems that seem to be in the process of unfolding, but that lack predication and seem never to want to reach closure.
There was never any more beginning than there is now, never any more ending than there is now. I mean, he has this sense that all of life is continuing in a process, and there's nothing. I mean, there's this although the cycle is life and death, and it's and then grass, right?
Yes.
Then grass arising from the grave,
yes.
Transforming people into nutriment, and so it continues again, So it is all ongoing and ever cycling, and that's it's. I mean, it's a wonderfully spiritual poetry, and he talks very much about spirit and the spiritual quality even of the common soldiers, but that spiritual quality is not. It's not what he would call European, in a sense of any kind of church or dogma. It really is something that you notice in what he would call nature.
So it's as common and available as grass or the breath we continue to breathe, which he suggests is also why death should not be understood as a conclusion, but as comparable to, say, the exhalation of breath or the inhalation of breath, which his poetic lines seem also to, let's say, reperform. Those poetic lines seem to work by way of the rhythm of the breath. You, in your essay, call attention to a figure you understand to be one of the great inheritors of Whitman's vision, Allen Ginsberg, specifically Howl, who also calls attention to the mystic spirituality and the commonality of the breath as the fundamental sentence unit of Whitman's poetic line. Could you talk more about what you understand to be the primary lesson that Allen Ginsberg learned from Whitman's poetic instruction?
Yeah, well, I think I mean, he has the collection Mind Breaths, and I think what Ginsberg learns from Whitman is that the body is the measure of is the poetic measure. It's the measure of breath. It's the measure of life, and he gets and with Ginsberg he gets very involved with meditation and breathing and following the breath in and out, and but even as far back as Howl, he's already realized that the expansion is connected to the long line and the breath and the use of the catalog or the anaphora, and he's already figured that out. He's picked that up from reading Whitman, but he hasn't yet developed fully his ideas about breath that he later does. But he does pick up the music and the idea that the breath, that to trust your breath, right? To trust the breathing of the poet. There's some of that. There's some Charles Olson kind of theorizes that, yes. and Ginsberg acknowledged that Olson kind of did the theory behind what he was already realizing about the connection of the breath to poetry.